So UConn and USC definitely lived up to the hype. Few takeaways from me. Number one, the first half of that game was the most impressed I've been with JuJu Watkins yet. You saw her really put her stamp on the game. You could see she was focused in and wanted to get the best of that matchup. She shot the ball well, and most importantly, she passed the ball well. She didn't take a bunch of bad shots when the defense came to her and overloaded. She sprayed it out, and her teammates made UConn pay. Kiki Iriafen also made them pay with the mid-range. Then there was Sarah Strong, who continues to impress on the UConn side of things. She is just a phenomenal, supreme talent. Yeah, she missed a free throw late, but she may already be the Huskies' best player, which brings us to Paige Bueckers, who did a nice job playmaking in the second half. But my biggest concern with Paige is that she struggles at times, to me, to create her own shot in isolation. She's smooth and efficient, plays well off the ball, but not really explosive. And I don't know how well that bodes for UConn come March. But what a great game overall. I mean, really one of those games you come away afterwards just excited that you watched. There's no real major storyline, I don't think, other than the fact that it was crowd pleasing, if you will, right? You had some key moments in there too, including this JuJu Watkins block of Paige Bueckers that led to a bucket on the other end. Paige coming, gets a piece of the three. Let's go the other way. A little hezzy, and gets the bucket. One thing I did notice in the game is JuJu gets a real favorable whistle. That's going to help her going forward because she's already getting a real favorable whistle at the college level, and I'm sure that will transfer over to the pros as well. She's getting a bunch of her points from the free throw line oftentimes. And then there was this moment from Paige where she hits the three, and she had a much better second half than she did a first half. KK Arnold, you see with the basketball, had a really good game for UConn. Wasn't in the game late, though. JuJu a little late with the closeout, and there's the stare down from Paige. Too bad for UConn and Paige that they didn't win the game, or else that would have been maybe the moment that lived beyond everything. After the game, Paige Bueckers had Sarah Strong's back, because if you didn't see it, UConn storms back in the second half. Strong is fouled on a three-point attempt and goes to the free throw line, makes the first, misses the second, misses the third on purpose. The rebound eventually gets controlled by Strong beyond the three-point line, and she gets a chance for a heave, but doesn't get close to the rim. And I don't really think anyone was blaming her, to be honest. I know Gino talked about her being devastated after the game, and Paige came to her defense, which I'll play for you in a second. But I didn't really see that as a takeaway, to be honest. I didn't see folks saying, Sarah Strong cost UConn. I mean, she did. It was a key missed free throw, of course. But I think it's more recognition that they've got a freshman who they're comfortable going to in those situations. And this slow baton pass that's going to happen, whether it's during the season or at the end of the season, from Bueckers to Strong when it comes to whose team this is. Because I think the only barrier for Strong, and you see her picking it up all the time, is like realizing nobody can stop her because she's got such skill at her size. And you put those two things together, she is really a load and difficult for anybody to deal with. But this is what Paige said after the game, which, I mean, look, again, even if I don't know if people were going after Sarah Strong, it's still a good sentiment from Paige.
Talk about your overall impression of Sarah played today. And a lot of people look at the missed free throw, but before that, she was pretty good.
Yeah, just to be clear, that game was not won or lost with those three free throws. Sarah was a huge reason a huge part of that second half comeback and the reason we were even in the game. But for her to continue to show up on this stage and continue to play as well as she has, continue to affect the game in so many different ways, whether it be rebounding, defending, assisting, scoring. But yeah, I don't want people to get the wrong impression of that she didn't impact this game tremendously in a very positive way. And those games was not decided in the last minute with those free throws.
And you can see Sarah upset there at the podium. And she's probably beating herself up because she makes those 3 free throws. This game goes to overtime. But UConn was a little soft early in this game, and USC really out-physicaled them. Now, the second half, JuJu was not as spectacular as she was in the first half. Probably a combination of things, the adjustment from UConn. It looked like she was laboring a bit out there. I don't know if she tweaked something. I don't know if it was that ankle that she came into the game with. Whatever the case, JuJu did not look as spry and as forceful in the second half of the game, because she really came out and I think wanted to, say, this is my court, a chain snatching kind of moment from Paige, especially after they lost last year. And Paige got a lot of shots up in this game, but wasn't her normal efficient self. And again, my biggest concern for her is like when that physical defense comes, can she get herself free? Because there were a lot of moments in the second half where I saw her kind of get into the lane and get deep, but didn't know what to do with it. Got in no man's land, got a little lost. And she relies a lot, I think, on dribble handoffs and screens and things like that. And she does a terrific job moving without the basketball. And again, she did a terrific job playmaking also. But that's my number one red flag for her at the pro level is she physically, strong and powerful enough and explosive enough to create that separation that you need against the most athletic, the most physical, the best defenses that you will see. Regardless, a terrific basketball game. 2 of the premier players in the sport right now. It got hyped. It lived up to the hype. It lived up to the billing. I hope it did huge numbers. It got handed an NFL audience. I was at a party for the beginning of it, and I'm looking for the channel, and they were like, "Oh no, we're on the channel," because the football game was on before that. So that should hopefully give them a nice fat lead in, and then hopefully people didn't tune out when USC went up, because it did feel like this was going to be a blowout. I mean, it was trending in that direction. Credit to UConn for fighting back in the game, even taking the lead and nearly getting it to overtime. So when a game goes like that and it lives up to the expectations and everyone plays fairly well, sometimes there's not this like one thing to sink your teeth into. Like, here was the huge takeaway: this person's a bum, this person's the legend, whatever the case may be. I think more so it was just this game lived up to the hype. JuJu Watkins spectacular in the first half. Sarah Strong made a strong impression. Paige Bueckers got going, but still left me with some questions, I guess, moving forward. And we'll see these 2 teams meet again. So that's the good news about the game ending and being over with.